Welcome to this episode of Uncharted Entrepreneurship. Today I have Joe Kingland. He is a serial entrepreneur and has a number of businesses. I'm going to let Joe do an introduction for himself. Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself, your day-to-day role, and one of your passions in life.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Brett. Really appreciate this opportunity to sit down and talk with you about what we're doing and what you're doing and get this going. So, yeah, I'm Joe Kingland. I'm the CEO of a company called Manage Infinity. We are a small business growth accelerator. We focus in the tech space and in the digital space. And so I have several different companies ranging from cybersecurity brands to digital marketing. Well, let's see. Okay, my day-to-day role mostly is really finding resources for folks, finding staff members, finding money, finding other, business coaches, advisors, board members, those kinds of things. That's generally where I spend all of my time. I collect the shopping list, the collective shopping list from everybody around the portfolio brands, and then I go and find what they need. And one of my passions in life, you see I have a Tee It Up for the Troops shirt on, is working with veterans. So I'm a veteran myself, and so something that I am really passionate about and love doing is helping veterans any way I can. So whenever I find a new way to help out a veteran or a bunch of veterans, I'm usually all for it. So anybody needs volunteers, look me up.
And that's awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I did volunteer for Mile in My Shoes for about 8 years, 5-6 years. 2018 anyway, it doesn't matter how long. But they have a new veteran group that runs from Nokomis. So it's
cool.
a great it's a great organization that just brings people together.
Yeah.
All right, so Joe, but before we start talking about a little bit about your business and things like that, you have volunteered for the Free Joke Project. I'm going to tell you a joke, and all you have to do is give me a rating 8 through 13. So here we go. If there were a pill for... I'm sorry. I'm going to start over. If there was a pill to cure procrastination, I would probably take it tomorrow.
I'll give it an 11. I saw where it was going. But I love it. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just a sucker for dad jokes. Like literally have a dad joke calendar right here.
Well, awesome. Yeah, my daughter my daughter gave me that one year as well, so perfect. All right, so tell us a little bit about you were a veteran. How long were you in the military for?
I was in for 6 years. Yeah, from 2001 to 2006. So
okay, and so then did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Tell us a journey from government work to entrepreneur.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So when I got out of the Navy, I was a submariner, and so I was stationed in Washington State, and I ended up having to do a cross-country journey. So I had a job lined up in Rhode Island. I had just built an old 1949 Ford pickup truck, rebuilt the whole thing. I loaded it up, and I calculated how much money I needed for gas and everything, and and I started driving. So I put a trailer on it, and I started driving and drove that thing over the Rockies and everything. But I had a slight issue with my calculation in that I didn't calculate the appropriate amount of money for gas, and it got about half the mileage that I thought it was going to get because I was towing a trailer. And so I made it about halfway across the country, and I kind of ended up landing in Minnesota. And I couldn't get relocation assistance from the new job, so I was like, well, I guess I'm staying here. Ended up in a consulting role, actually, for a local small IT company here called Escape Key way back in the day. They got bought a couple of times, and after the second one, I had moved up enough in the organization. I was doing some inside sales and project management, and along with engineering. So I said, I think I'm gonna go ahead and roll on to my next thing instead of going through another acquisition. And so I ended up going over to Anytime Fitness, which was an amazing decision, honestly. So I started there as a director of IT, and they were relatively early. I think they had around 700 locations in one brand and a couple of companies that kind of supported it. So I stayed there for 7 years, and we grew that franchise, to the point where it was taking an investment and buying other franchise businesses, and we were rolling all of those into a shared services model. And I think we set up another 3 or 4 companies while I was there, all kind of inside of their portfolio. And I was like, man, this is the way to do it. So in 2017, when I exited Self-Esteem Brands, I came to manage Infinity, and I had built, I had kind of built this company back in 2012 because I had all these customers that kind of wanted out of the acquisition rat race that they were in with the previous company too. And so after my non-compete was up, I took them on, hired some staff, and then started setting up the shared services model in 2017 and 2018. And then I've been able to use people that I know and connections that I have to be able to kind of start up, several different brands and bootstrap them and just kind of get them rolling. So that was 2018 mostly to start the new ones. So it's been a journey, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been, it's a roller coaster ride. The highs are real high and the lows are real low, but in the end, when you get off, you're like, man, let's do that again. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I admit I'm one of those entrepreneurs who loves that 0 to 60 phase, the beginning, the startup, and then that sort of. I'm not going to say well, it could be a grind after a while. Tell us about. I suppose this is the best of all worlds, where you get to kind of build a business up and you manage it for a while. Tell us how that works, how your organization works in the shared services model, and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, really, I look, these days I'm looking for folks that really have a strong concept, a great idea, but really don't know how to build a business and support it. That's kind of where I'm finding success is being able to build a business and support, a new business or a very young business, and give them, the resources that they're needing and looking for, um, at a good rate, and also to get them kind of set up to go into the future. So um, really, that's really what we're looking for, because a lot of people have really good ideas and the concepts might be really, really strong, but actually building the business is a skill set in and of itself, as you well know. You got to find the right mixture of resources and people, and the timing's got to be right and all that good stuff. So, and of course, banking relationships. It took me years just to find a good bank that actually understood what I was doing and would partner with me. And that, just that one thing alone unlocked a ton of stuff. A lot of growth for the different organizations. So, that ended up being just a critical partnership that I took me years to find. It probably would have grown this a lot faster had I found them earlier. But it's just trying to lend things like that to to other entrepreneurs, and help support them and help them grow and build their dreams too.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting observation. I know that we pivoted to a small bank during the pandemic because we found that the big banks couldn't offer us
Yeah.
anything other than a place to store our money. What
Yeah.
other things have you learned that have helped you in sort of break through before you got into EO? Tell us maybe one more little nugget that you were able to pull out of your hat in that?
Yeah, I would say, the banking relationship really was critical during the pandemic. We were at a different bank and ended up switching because they wouldn't really do the what was that, the PPP program, and we needed it, to be frank. So um, we we ended up switching banks then, and then since then we've kind of outgrown them too. But yeah, I would say the other nugget, and you always hear this, like your network is your net worth, right? So the other thing that I'll say, that's been a key for me is getting and finding the right advisors, finding, for me as well, and finding people in the location where you're at that are well connected, that can get you to the right folks too, right? And they're usually very natural problem solvers and have very good networks as well. So that was huge. I was doing everything myself, just in the grind, like you mentioned, for years. But stuff really started unlocking when I was able um, to start leveraging, finding good advisors, and leveraging them and their networks, and having them understand, what we were doing, and why it was good for everyone.
You've just joined Entrepreneurs Organization, so tell us, how did you stumble upon Entrepreneurs Organization? And since you don't have tell us then talk about your expectations, what you'd like to see out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I learned about EO. I was just talking about advisors, right? So one of my somebody I've been watching, he's now the CMO for one of my companies, but I've been watching him for a long, long time, and and he was working with another gentleman that I saw basically grow one of my competitors very rapidly. So these two guys grew one of my competitors very, very quickly. They're very successful, and so I was able to bring this CMO person on, and he was able to help me get more attention from that advisor, from the person I ended up getting to come and be an advisor for me. And then between the two of them, they had a mutual connection over at Traction Capital, Shane Erickson. So I had some meetings with Shane. He picked my brain a little bit about the shared services model, and I'm still picking his brain about fundraising and those kinds of things. He's a brilliant guy. And he told me about EO, and after kind of sitting and contemplating it for a little while and having a couple of conversations, I was like, all right, this is cool, let's do it. Get to meet a bunch of new folks, and also really focus on taking care of not only the businesses, but also a little bit more of myself too.
Yeah, talk about your thoughts before you sort of got introduced, and now you've been through forum training. What are your thoughts about your going into your first meeting?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it'll be very interesting. I did forum training, and I did a mashup with Blair. Blair ran it, Budlong from the chapter, and I guess from my standpoint, going into it, I want to be prepared. I really want to make sure that I sit down and I think about things, and I know I'm gonna break rules, and it's probably gonna be sloppy and ugly and all that good stuff. But the forum that I joined, just named Sunshine, they said, oh, that's okay, we'll help you out. So so I think for me, it's just a matter of making sure that I have my thoughts collected, and I take the time to do the reflection that I need to do before I walk in the door, which is, but when you're constantly on the move, everybody knows this, right? When you're constantly on the move, it's very difficult to actually, like, force yourself to stop and reflect. And that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most, is being able to stop, like, collect my thoughts, reflect, and then be able to do the experience sharing.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to make an analogy right now that just stopping to reflect, if you're running down a trail, you don't see the surroundings around you often. You only
Yeah.
see what that little bit of trail in front of you. And
Yeah.
it's such a great analogy to say. I mean, any business person should take that one bit of advice and slow down, look around, observe, and see where you are, where you've been, where you're going. So that's super. Joe, switching a little bit, how do you see the outlook this year for the economy and especially for the Twin Cities? What is your outlook now?
Yeah, I still think there's going to be a fair amount of uncertainty and people just hesitating. I think there's a lot of a lot of hesitation when I'm talking to other entrepreneurs right now. A lot of them are saying they've got stuff on hold. They've gotten calls for projects that they had that maybe weren't in flight yet, but were about to be, and they've had gotten the call like they're not going to do those at the moment. So I think there's still a little bit of uncertainty and just seeing how things shake out. The jobs market still looks pretty good. The jobs reports, are still pretty solid. But I think there's just kind of a mix of information right now, and I think people are trying to prepare as best they can or best they know how to, which I think is causing a little bit of delay in actually pulling the trigger on deals or moving things forward. They're more concerned if they can be able to tread water and hold the line right now. That's at least what I'm seeing and hearing from other entrepreneurs. It's a matter of if we've actually seen the true fallout of the tariff business yet or not. And my gut tells me this is probably still the eye before the storm. But that's just my opinion. I'm certainly no economist.
That's awesome. Joe, we have a few minutes left as I close out the podcast to give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug about anything they'd like. What would you like to plug today?
Awesome. Well, I guess our latest venture is a company called Clock Labs, and that is a return on investment based digital marketing agency. So the whole premise of this, and I'm sure entrepreneurs everywhere can relate to me when I say this. Generally speaking, marketing has been a boat for me. I just pitch a lot of money into it, and then it's very difficult to find how I get that money back, let alone more money than what I gave them. And so we really launched Clock Labs to fix that. What my companies, all of them pretty much need are leads. They need good, qualified leads that they can give to their salespeople to boost the salesperson's efforts. Go and get those, and that's really what Clock Labs is about. And the payment structure is also based on what they actually deliver. So they're aligned with the company, and they want to get leads, as many leads, as qualified leads as possible, as quickly as possible. So that's my shameless plug. If you need leads, give me a shout.
That's awesome.
My personal experience with the company since we founded it, and I use them for our brands, but my personal experience is about a 7-to-1 return.
Wow, that's awesome. Tell us how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can give me a shout. I'm at joe@manageinfinity.com. You can also just hit me up on my cell phone, 612-564-2150. Don't be shy. I'm not.
That's awesome. That's great, Joe. Joe Kingland is the founder of Infinity Management Group, and a number of other businesses. Thank you so much for being here. And he is in Entrepreneurs Organization, Minnesota. This podcast is sponsored by EO Minnesota. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Welcome to Uncharted Entrepreneurship, your front row seat to daring stories from the boldest business trailblazers forging new paths across industries. I'm your host, Brent Peterson, armed with inside access, sitting down with partners, founders, and CEOs in the entrepreneurial world. Let's explore.